I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 smart ring. I've been wearing too many wearables these days. This is the brand new Polar Loop, and I've been wearing and testing this thing out over the past little while. And in this video today, I want to tell you all about it. This new device from Polar is aimed to compete directly against the big brands out there like the Whoop Band here in this space. It's a simple screenless device that tracks your all-day health and wellness metrics and activities and sleep. Now the Polar Loop has some really interesting features along with being one of the most attractive options on the market, in my opinion. But spoiler, it's not all sunshine and roses at this point. There are some issues with it, and in this video, I want to share my experience with the Polar Loop after a while of wearing it, alongside some of the competition. Let's dive right in. The new Polar Loop retails for $199 US, and the big thing about the Polar Loop compared to something like the Whoop Band is that there is no subscription for this device. You pay $199 up front, and you don't pay again. The software is free. Now, in contrast, the Whoop Band I have here ranges from $199 to $359, but that's a reoccurring charge that you have to pay every year, so substantially more expensive. However, on the other end of the spectrum, we have the Amazfit Helio strap here, which is $99 and has no subscription as well. At launch, the Polar Loop comes in 3 different colors. There's a brown copper color, grayish sand, which is kind of gold, and then this all black version I have here. And in my opinion, the all black version is kind of my favorite. It looks really nice. Taking a closer look at the hardware here, I think the Polar Loop is a really nice design. I think it's probably the most classy looking wearable like this compared to the Whoop Band or even the Helio strap. And as you can see, the whole top of the pod there, it has a little Polar logo on it, is all metal, and that just makes this device feel a lot more premium compared to the competition. If I flip the device over, you can see the metal sort of ends halfway through, and then the bottom part here is plastic, which is fine. It does house the optical heart rate sensor on the bottom here, and it does use the same USB charger as the Polar watches that are available. This is just a generic Polar charger that also works on something like the Polar Grit X2 I have here. The way the band works on the Polar Loop is very simple. It simply slides on and off just like that. You can take the pod completely off if you'd like to, and then you sort of just feed the band through and through the other part and secure it down using Velcro. It does have this additional little buckle on the side here with a Polar logo on it that you feed the band through, and then you sort of double back over itself to secure it to your wrist. What's nice about the Polar Loop is that they do include 2 different bands inside the box. You get a small medium, which is the one I've been using because I have 165mm circumference wrists, and then there's a large, extra large band as well. And with it on my wrist, I can say this thing is super comfortable. I really like the band material. It's not like the super thin kind that Whoop uses, but it's still quite thin. It's very soft, and no complaints about wearing this to sleep or wearing it all day long. Now, when it comes to battery life on the Polar Loop, this device does feature 8 days of battery life per charge, and I can say that's pretty dead on to what I've been seeing so far. Okay, now that we've talked about the hardware, let's talk about what's missing. So a couple of things. First of all, this device does not have a built-in vibration motor, which is kind of a bummer. Some of the competition, like the Amazfit Helio strap, which is actually cheaper, has a vibration motor which you can set alarms with. So if you want to wake up in the morning, it will buzz on your arm. We don't get that feature here on the Polar Loop. Another thing missing to the Polar Loop is accessories. So currently Polar is only offering wristbands in various colors. They don't offer any form of bicep band, which is kind of a bummer, more so when you watch the other parts of this video. However, even though Polar does not sell a official bicep band, you can actually Velcro the 2 bands included in the box together if you want to try to cobble your own bicep band together. But I found the most elegant solution for a bicep band for this device was actually using the COROS heart rate monitor bicep band. So COROS makes this heart rate monitor. It's like $100, and you can actually just slide the pod off of the band. And from there, you can simply slide the Polar Loop pod onto the COROS heart rate monitor band, or even leave both on the band and have 2 sources of heart rate, which would be interesting. And now you've got a bicep band for the Polar Loop. And to be honest, it almost looks like it's something that was made for it. What's interesting about the COROS heart rate monitor strap here is you get this for free with the COROS heart rate monitor. However, they sell these separately for just $15 in like 3 different colors. I'll link it in the description down below. So if you are in a pinch and really want a bicep band for your Polar Loop, this might be the way to go. With the hardware out of the way, let's take a closer look at the software because that's where all the magic happens. So here I've just loaded up Polar Flow. This is the diary or or dashboard page that you see when you first load the app up. Up at the top here, you can see my connected device is the Polar Loop Gen 2. We can see the battery status is at 50%. And as you can see, the last sync was 28 minutes ago. Scrolling down, the first thing you'll see is my cardio load status. This is going to show all of your activity and how it's affecting your cardio load week by week. It does tell me I am overreaching because I've been doing a lot of running lately. If I tap in on that, I get even more granular data about my cardio load over the past 7 days. Now below that cardio load widget there, I also get this little blurb that explains what this all means. Scrolling down here, we do get our activity widget here, and this is just a basic goal that you can set in the app for how much activity you want to do. And now I'm at 98% of my goal because I went on a quick run this morning. If I tap in on that though, I get a ton of data to sift through about all of my activity. And what I really like about Polar is their graph here. So this graph is day by day. You can see all these activities from yesterday. But if I go back to today, you can see what time I was sleeping, what time I woke up, my resting heart rate from sleeping, and then when I woke up and as my heart rate goes up, and then all of the activities I did this morning. And if I go back to a more sedentary day like this day here, you actually can see these little orange alerts, and these alerts tell you if you've been inactive for more than an hour. That's kind of a nice way to judge just how active you were on a given day, and you can kind of scroll day by day, which I think is kind of cool. Now down below that graph, you get your step count, your distance for the day, your active time for the day, your calories burned. Jumping back to the diary page here, if I scroll down further, now we can see all of my activities throughout the day. So here's the first issue I have with the Polar Loop. So this device can automatically recognize and track your activities. So if you go for a run or a bike ride, it will detect that elevated heart rate level and then mark that as an activity within the app. The problem is that automatic activity detection is just way too sensitive. For example, if I go up a flight of stairs and my heart rate goes up a little bit, it'll mark that as an activity. For me, I just want to save my runs or bike rides or anything like physically active, like working out at the gym or something like that. I don't really want to save all that other stuff. And as an example of an automatically detected workout that didn't happen, you can see here this top one automatically tracked 1 hour and 22 minutes today at 10 a.m., which was an hour and a half ago. I think I was like cleaning up my kid's bedroom. If I tap in on that and look around, you can see I did have a max heart rate of 130 beats per minute because I was carrying furniture down a flight of stairs. But for the most part, most of it was pretty low heart rate. So I don't really know why I marked this as an activity. When it comes to activity tracking though, there's automatically detected activities, and then there's manual activities that you can do from within the Polar Flow app as well. So if I go over to this little stopwatch icon at the bottom here, we'll drop into this page for training. And here I can start a manual workout. And what's cool about this is I can see my heart rate from the Polar Loop worn on my arm directly on my phone. So I can see my heart rate zones and stuff like that as I work out. Couple of things to note about the training feature within Polar Flow. If you want to go for an outdoor run or a bike ride and record a GPS route along with your heart rate data from the Polar Loop, you can do that. All you have to do is start a run workout instead of a treadmill workout. It'll record your distance and your speed and everything by leveraging your phone's GPS antenna. And then all of that will be merged with your heart rate data from the Polar Loop. So you get a whole picture of your activity that you can even sync to things like Strava and things like that. On the other hand, you can also track an activity with only the Loop without your phone nearby. When it comes to these workouts though, it was a little bit confusing to me to get set up. So for example, when I first paired the device to the Polar Flow app and went for a run, it turns out my device wasn't paired as a workout sensor. It was only paired to the platform to record like my steps and activity and stuff, but not as a heart rate sensor within Polar Flow. To do that, you have to actually go into this little hamburger menu here and then pair it separately as a external heart rate sensor by clicking this pair button. So now that I've got my Polar Loop paired up as a sensor and I'm wearing it, I can go and press start. Now you're given two different options. You've got this top option for phone that tells you you'll get both heart rate and location or GPS data together. And then you've got another option for device only. It says you can leave your phone behind and still get heart rate data directly from the Polar Loop only. But here's where things get kind of odd. So if you start a manual workout within the app and you select that phone option and then go for a run outdoors, you're gonna end up with two recordings of that activity, because the Polar Loop will still automatically recognize a workout, and you also have the manually started workout. So you end up with duplicate recordings for some reason. Another thing to note is that if you do own a Polar smartwatch as well, like this Grid X2 Pro here, if you run with the watch and the Polar Loop together, again, you will end up with duplicate activities. And in the case of starting a manual workout on the Polar Loop and on the watch, you'll end up with 3 copies of that activity because of the automatically detected one as well. I just feel like in 2025, this is something they should be able to work out, and hopefully in a firmware update down the road, this can be eliminated. So one thing I was fully expecting from this device was the ability to broadcast a Bluetooth heart rate signal. That is something all of the competition do, including Whoop and the Amazfit Helio strap. This means you can use these devices as a simple external heart rate sensor instead of purchasing another heart rate sensor like a Garmin or a COROS HRM or something like that. For whatever reason, Polar has decided that that is not a feature of the Polar Loop, and from what I understand, at a hardware level, it is not capable of doing that. All right, now that we talked activity tracking, let's talk about sleep and sleep tracking. So Polar has a couple of unique features when it comes to sleep tracking, one being nightly recharge and another one called boost from sleep. These are both features that have been around for a while on their smartwatches and are now here featured on the Polar Loop, which is really nice. So nightly recharge here gives you this really visual graph. If I tap in on this, you can see it gives me more information about my night of sleep. I've got my ANS charge here on the left and my sleep charge here on the right. If I dive into my ANS charge here, this gives me information like my heart rate throughout the night, my beat to beat interval, and all of these factors roll up into that score that is the ANS charge, which ultimately lead into the nightly recharge. Over here on the right, we get my sleep charge, which actually is within range. And if I tap in on this, we go to all of my detailed sleep stats. I do like nightly recharge quite a bit. If I scroll back in time, you can see I have another night here that had a better score, but it is a nice simple way to view your previous night of sleep without getting in the weeds and looking at all of your data. Scrolling down further, we have my boost from sleep here, and again, this is another proprietary metric from Polar. If I tap in on that, you can see what kind of boost I got from my previous night of sleep on a 0 to 10 scale, which actually looks pretty good here, which is kind of odd considering my nightly recharge was not very good. And finally, down here at the bottom of the list, we have my sleep stats. So at the bottom, we get my overall sleep duration, 7 hours of sleep last night. And then above that, we get my sleep score on a 0 to 100 scale, which was 81. Now, if I tap in on that, we can see all of my detailed stats from my sleep. With the user experience out of the way, let's dive right into the heart rate sensor and accuracy. And this one is gonna get interesting. So Polar is using their older Precision Prime heart rate sensor. I don't know why they chose this, because they do have a newer heart rate sensor called the Elixir biosensor here. I think it's just a little too big for a small device like this, so they went with the Precision Prime. And I have done some testing in terms of accuracy on this heart rate sensor, and there is some good news and bad news. Let's start with the good news. Taking a look at this first data set comparing the Polar Loop, the Whoop MG, the Amazfit Helio strap, and the Garmin ECG sensor, you can see that the Loop is actually doing a pretty decent job here. All of the devices actually look really good in this example, but the really important thing to note here is that in this data set, when I recorded this activity, I was wearing the Polar Loop up on my bicep and not on my wrist. Still though, pretty solid results from all the devices here, with only a few areas of deviation that were only a couple of beats per minute off. So that's the good news. Let's move into the not so good news, and that's when I took the bicep band off and put the Polar Loop on my wrist. And you can see that the Polar Loop struggled to maintain the correct heart rate, particularly when I slowed down from a rapid run to a walk in a quick duration of time. The Loop seemed to get confused in those situations, then it would figure it out and then sort of snap back in with the other test devices. Now this is a trend I've noticed over and over again on the Polar Loop. When it's worn on the wrist, this anomaly seems to happen every single time if you do an interval or just raise your heart rate quickly and then drop it quickly. You might also notice on this graph that the Whoop Band MG struggled a bit here as well. I'm not really sure why, because I had that on my bicep and usually I get pretty good results from it. Oddly enough, the Amazfit Helio strap will win this one in terms of accuracy. Let's move on to data set number 3, which I am calling the dumpster fire. Again, in this example, the Polar Loop was worn on my wrist and not on my bicep. You can see all the test devices climb in a very similar trend, and when I slow down to a walk quickly, most of them respond, except for the Loop. The Loop, again, wobbles around the 150s for a bit before realizing that the heart rate is much lower and then locking back into it at that lower heart rate. To be honest, the results I'm getting from the Polar Loop while worn on the wrist are kind of surprising to me. I was expecting much better results, but in my testing so far, this is what I'm seeing. Pretty much anytime there's a rapid change of heart rate, the Loop sort of loses track. And this really drives home the fact that Polar really needs to come up with a bicep band because it performs much better when worn up here. Okay, so where does that leave us on the new Polar Loop? Well, there are some things to like about this device. The hardware is great, it looks really nice, it feels really high quality, and it's super comfortable. The battery life here is good at about a week on a single charge, and the price point at $199 US is fair in my opinion, considering the competition and the fact that there's no subscription. The app does seem pretty basic, but you do get most of the information that you need or want in a simple and easy to digest way, along with some interesting metrics like boost from sleep and nightly recharge. But the good stuff sort of ends there. Currently, the app is a little bit quirky with things like duplicate activity recordings if you start a manual workout. The device also can't broadcast a Bluetooth signal for your heart rate to other devices nearby, which pretty much all of the competition can do. And the accuracy when worn on the wrist has shown to be a bit problematic in my experience so far. It does get much better when worn on your bicep, but since they don't sell that first party, you'd have to DIY your own or buy the COROS strap, which feels odd to buy someone else's band for your Polar device. So let's get down to brass tacks. Should you buy the Polar Loop? Should you buy this thing? In my opinion, maybe. I think if you're seeking a device like this and you're not already invested in any particular ecosystem, there are better options out there on the market at a lower price point. For example, the Amazfit Helio strap is $99 and can do some things that the Polar Loop can't do, like broadcast a heart rate signal and provides that dynamic metric called biocharge for your all-day activity. Not only that, the Amazfit Helio strap has proven to be pretty darn accurate when it comes to its heart rate sensor, and it does have a full ecosystem with smart rings and smart watches that you can, interchange between and collect all of that data in one place. The Whoop band is also quite good and probably the highest quality device like this on the market right now. It has a proven track record of providing actionable and useful information, and the Whoop app is super polished and also offers some unique metrics that you don't get with these other devices, like your physiological age, your blood pressure insights, or even ECG with the MG model. And on top of that, Whoop does get the longest battery of the bunch with up to 14 days of use, which is pretty good, but it will cost you yearly. With that said, the Polar Loop does have a market. If you own a Polar watch like the Grid X2 Pro here and love the ecosystem, you love your watch, and you want to collect more data when you're not wearing your watch, for example, when you're sleeping or doing activities like combat sports or climbing where you can't wear a watch, and you just want something lower profile and less distracting and getting out of your way, that's where the Polar Loop comes in. I also think Polar has a pretty big opportunity here to solve a lot of the issues I've seen so far with future updates. Things like duplicate activity recordings or the super sensitive automatic activity detection seem easily fixable. And these are struggles that other competitors have already faced. They had the same issue with the Helio strap. And even the heart rate sensor accuracy can be refined with software down the road. So hopefully they can do that. On top of that, now would be a great time for them to release a Polar branded bicep band and some additional accessories. But that's just my opinion. And now we're gonna hear from you in the comments down below. Is the Polar Loop the right device for you? Let me know down below what you like about it, what you don't like about it, and if you're just gonna go with the Helio strap or the Whoop band instead. And after you do that, also make sure to check out all of the links in the description down below for everything that I talked about in this video, from the Polar Loop to the Whoop band to the Amazfit Helio strap. I'll have them all linked down there, and those are affiliate links that help support this channel, but they cost nothing extra to you. So you might as well use them. In fact, the Whoop link down there will actually give you like a free month or something. So check that out. And finally, before you leave, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button down below so you don't miss more videos from me in the future, okay? Hope you found this helpful, and I will see you very soon. Bye.